Hello and welcome to the final installment of the Forbes ESG podcast masterclass. And again, we have Jan Růžička, the Chief Reputation Officer of Home Credit Group.
Hello.
We have Jakub Malich, Vice President, Climate and ESG at MSCI.
Thank you. Hello.
And I'm Viktor Hanzlik, a partner at McKinsey, and I lead sustainability in Central Europe. So today, this is emphatically not going to be about Central Europe. This is an episode which will be where mostly Jan and Jakub will be talking about Asia, since they're both based in Hong Kong, and providing again a perspective of somebody running ESG at a large business and somebody looking at other companies and helping them understand the factors that contribute to their ESG. Guys, Asia is huge and very diverse. So is there one ESG in Asia, or do you see different things in different places?
There are different things in different places for sure, but there is some basic dynamics. The basic dynamics inside Asia, and then also let's call it conversation between Asia and let's call it West. If I mention first the dynamic between West and Asia, if we want to save the planet, if we want to fight the climate change, if we want to have a successful implementation of Paris Accord or Glasgow Conference, it's not possible without Asia. Like, no way. 59% of global population are living in Asia. The largest countries are in Asia. Huge businesses, again, are in Asia. So it's not possible to do it like, secluded. The Western countries will be cooking something without thinking about Asia, because otherwise we won't move anywhere. But what's positive is this second dynamic inside Asia. Yes, they are listening, they are watching, they are part of the conversation with the West and these global initiatives, United Nations and the big clubs of investors and businesses and think tanks, what they are doing. But they are also cooking their own, let's call it ESG, or we can more say it green finance or social finance, because they look on the world pragmatically. Asia, social harmony, it's the bread and butter of everyone living there. Businesses, people, this is important. Also, sort of like hierarchical society where people are listening to each other and then listening also to the government. And the governments understand that the sort of like people are moving up and up on Maslow pyramid. It's not only products, but it's services and quality of life. And so Asian people are looking on, for example, climate change and ESG as a sort of like, embracing this topic, and then green finance very pragmatically. They want to have a clean cities. They don't want to live in polluted cities. It's a big political, societal problem in many Asian countries. They don't want their cities to be destroyed because, the global warming and Jakarta falling to the sea, or Ho Chi Minh, the floods in Vietnam, thunderstorms sometimes in Philippines. So it's perceivable. It's a very practical approach, what I see in Asia. And from this is being derived practical action. Literally every single big Asian country is cooking their own, let's call it Green Deal or Green Taxonomy. I see it in Jakarta, I see it in Kazakhstan, where EBRD Bank is supporting Kazakh government to create their own green finance and ESG. I see it in China, where the central bank, People's Bank of China, is super vocal about it. And whenever you would be listening to the governor of central bank and the monetary board, they would be talking green finance. I see it in Vietnam, where it's also connected, for example, to the World Economic Forum. I see it in India. So it's a big move in Asia, and I think it's underlining everything when now we are having upcoming G20 presidency chaired by Indonesia. And Indonesia has as a big topic the green, ESG, climate change. So it's really emerging in all the countries, but not only that, there is also S. maybe more practical than in the West, where it is connected either let's make employees happy, or let's think about what customers think about our business, customer complaints, how we deal with them, etc. In Asia, I see the S as a business. Social bonds, more than in Europe, socially linked funding, micro businesses, tractors for farmers, mamas and papas shops. So this is much more there because, of course, the emerging country, a certain portion of the society is not eligible to get money from traditional banking. So now with emerge of ESG, it's changing, and even big banks are starting to be more vocal, listening more to, being active more in sort of like micro businesses or retail because it's good cause. So this is how I see it. How about you, Jakub, from investor perspective?
Yeah. I mean, I second everything you said about, you know, how important Asia is in this global push or anything that is happening globally, right? Just because of sheer size of it. Yeah. Maybe more, as you said, investor point of view, especially maybe those from outside trying to understand Asia, trying to understand what are the relevant topics there. Because again, I feel like this topic, you know, ESG, sustainability, can only be, you know, talked about in an efficient way if there is the addressness, right? If we are talking about topics and issues that are relevant, you know, for given companies, given countries, right? Otherwise, it's these blanket statements like "let's be greener," you know, which doesn't mean anything in the end. So yeah, Asia, this is the thing. I'm not sure people not living there even realize how big it is and how diverse it is, right? Whether it comes to the environment or the societies, right? So again, you know, if we want to address the correct problems, this is the absolute key thing. You know, we need to be looking at, okay, if a company, I don't know, in Hong Kong tells me that it's not destroying any rainforest in Hong Kong, I'm like, okay, but that was never a problem, really, right? But are you doing it in, let's say, Indonesia, you know? So again, right, like we need to be able to read these, you know, what are the companies or even the governments telling us, and whether this is solving for a real problem or addressing a real risk in the country. So that's environment, right? Like, as I said, you know, it's not only climate change, it's issues like biodiversity, use of natural capital, pollution and waste. I mean, you said it a little bit. I mean, we all saw some of these horrible pictures from some parts of, it's Asia, but also other places in the world, which we think probably like how can we live like that as people? Like, and we are doing it to ourselves, right? So these things, of course. There's the same thing when it comes to the social pillar, right? As you said, like the societies are so different in Asia. I mean, you cannot compare, I don't know, society in India, Southeast Asia to the one in Japan, let's say, you know. And again, like entirely different issues would need to be addressed, and different risks are coming from those. So I would say really, first of all, we need to stop talking about Asia as one thing. And then look at those concrete, you know, things in each of those countries. But of course, all together, once again, second what you said, like without Asia, we cannot achieve much, I would say. But I'm also happy to see really positive trends in Asia, right? One example for all, we talked about this before, the green finance, you know, green bonds, whatever it is. I mean, China, but also some other markets are already among the biggest issuers of these securities, right? It was also the similar thing with social bonds, especially as a response to the COVID crisis. So the trends in Asia, you know, in terms of, again, paying attention to this and really what shows on the numbers, I would say it is there, which is great news.
I think really interesting from European perspective is also, you were mentioning the Maslow pyramid, yeah. And Jakub, you were also mentioning the diversity of Asia. And Asia is very many countries, some of them extremely rich in terms of per capita GDP, some of them middle or even lower income per head. So from a European perspective, clearly it's a necessity given the science. Now speaking about E and global warming, and it's almost a moral imperative. But people here sometimes think it's really a European or a transatlantic thing. This would be somehow Western societies who have come to that point in Maslow pyramids where they're not caring that much about purely putting bread on the table, but they want business to do more. Do you see big differences or even the same commitment to ESG between the really rich economies, let's take Singapore or Japan, and the ones where the incomes are lower?
I would say that the general perception of ESG, or let's put probably climate change, is there higher across all the jurisdiction, higher than, for example, in Central Europe. So it is the topic. It's a very practical topic. Again, it's not metaphysical. It's even poorest of the people, they see it every year with the floods coming, typhoons coming, the global warming coming. So it's a big debate. The richer countries, they already do a lot of actions. For example, you mentioned Singapore. There is this huge climate, let's call it, fund being promoted by Prime Minister Lee. I mentioned Indonesia. We both with Jakub mentioned, for example, green finance in China. So of course the richer countries are well positioned to do something. The poor will have a problem. And how to address this problem? First, we could think about some financial transfers from the rich country. It's always called like rich north, poor south. Let's move money. This is happening, but it will never be enough. Never ever. Even with all the subsidies in the world coming to this in Asia, because the countries are so large. Just think about it. Indonesia, 300 million people. So it's not only about huge China, huge India, but other countries are big as well. You have 100 million here, 100 million people there. So I think the only solution, and this is what countries, governments understand more and more, it's going to be transition run by private money. Private banks, either big banks from the West or big banks from the East. Some of the largest, the financial power hubs are in Asia, either in China or Singapore or India. So basically the movement to green finance, ESG assets and classes, this is what Jakub is doing via the indexes and ratings. This is what can help the world to move in one direction. So at the end, if it's going to happen, and I believe it will happen, from big chunk, it's going to be Asian money moving Asia forward.
Well put. Yeah, I would say you asked about if Europe is really kind of more advanced in this way, or
and maybe would you know off the top of your head, like if you look at the ESG ratings you're giving to Asian companies, and how do they compare to, European, or what's the variance, and is there lots of country variety in Asia? Are some countries performing systematically better than others?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Again, I don't really like to compare, let's say, Asia to Europe, because, even I would say in Europe we would be maybe even more sensitive about this, like, say, comparing, I don't know, Hungary to UK, like many people say it's so different, Same there. So I wouldn't say these blanket statements. We definitely see some trends. I would say when it comes to things like governance, I would say there we would see, kind of across the board, maybe still companies based in Asia or in many, at least Asian markets, would score lower on some of these things.
Yeah, I think if I may, from my Hong Kong or Asian perspective, to do sort of summary about how we see Asia from ESG perspective. Asia is super important. Conversation is there, but definitely more will be better. So it's great that G20 presidency will be about ESG, will be about climate change, and it's going to be in Jakarta. Second thing, it's great that even poorer countries understand the topic, and not only as a E, but also S and G. Guys, you can bet that, I also do regulatory, and I can assure you, you can bet that the standardization, level playing field, governance, it's a big topic for every regulator in Asia. Again, very pragmatically, social harmony. You don't want to have unhappy customers on the streets. you don't want to have unhappy employees. So the governance also is a big topic everywhere in Asia, across all the jurisdictions. So E, S, social harmony, and G are present everywhere, in rich country as poor, which is great. Third, they are building infrastructure. I mean, ESG infrastructure. So the regulation for green finance, social finance, how to move money, you know, how to rate them. In Hong Kong, both in Hong Kong and Singapore, if you want to do IPO, ESG is obligatory part of disclosures. Very normal, already for years. Jakub rightly said the different cities are fighting for the primacy to be the hub for ESG and green finance. So this is happening as well. And the final, maybe most important, if we want to change it, either climate change or to move from shareholder to stakeholder capitalism, somebody need to pay for it. And Asians understand that it's not only about subsidies. It's not enough. It's about markets and money from the financial markets, and also about fixed income and the products and instruments coming also from the global banks, private money, and also private money from Asia. So let's see what will happen in upcoming years. But now, even though we don't see it, or you guys don't see it here in Europe, so now Asia is moving, and it's maybe moving more vocally into ESG domain than the West. Now let's wrap up the whole series. It's 2022. ESG is happening everywhere. Regulators, businesses, customers, media are talking about it. They don't necessarily call it ESG. They can call it climate change, they can call it sustainability. They can call it, you know, the carbon neutrality, or, you know, the economic transition. Different people speak differently, and they also understand differently. But the movement is here. So each of you, if you can wrap up the whole series and your sort of like vision for the future, what will happen not in 2050 because it's kingdom far away, but how you see that this topic will be evolving in upcoming 3-5 years. Viktor, let's start with you.
So I think that lots of things will become much more clearer than they are now. As we discussed right now, there is a very clear direction of travel. Lots of the detail is still missing. And again, as we already discussed, at no point will there be full clarity, but I would expect there to be quite a bit more clarity, and lots of those structures and precedents to be appearing. Second thing, and we might just take the Russian invasion of Ukraine. ESG will need to be resilient to a lot of unexpected events and black swans. Would have been naive to think that nothing remarkable or nothing bad would happen between 2020 and 2050. That's something which adds another layer of complexity and makes this even more difficult. But we just need to find a way to make this resilient and to also carry at least the vast majority of people with us on the journey to ESG. For me, ultimately, this is around science, and science having served humanity very well. The contribution of science to managing and largely beating the COVID pandemic, or at least in Europe, the contribution of science has been incredible, and we've been watching it live. And it's the same science which is telling us what happens if we don't act on greenhouse gas emissions. And I just think that's a very compelling reason to act.
Great, Jakub, how about you? Some last words of wisdom.
Okay, I mean, it's not going to be as noble as you told us. I will try to stay, really within my lane, and again bring it to the investment world,
to the money,
to financial markets. I think, that now, and it's clear, really from our conversations with our clients, but also from the numbers that we showed and talked about, I think we are really past this point where investors especially have been dismissive of ESG or sustainability in the investment world or financial world, really thinking that kind of paying attention to these things or even like investing money in this way, that it's basically something like a charity, right? That it's you kind of say goodbye to that money, but you do something that is good, right? So I think we are now past that point that investors are understanding that this is not the case, but ESG is all around us, and they just need to be cognizant of it, in making their investment decisions. And I think we will much more explore the ways of how to do it. So again, related to this, as I say, kind of not even understanding maybe how it's done. Still, there would be many people or investors who think the only way how to kind of invest in a, let's say, environmentally friendly way would be to divest from all the companies that are considered to be environmentally damaging, right? That I just don't buy them, I exclude them from my investment. But of course, that is one of the ways, but only one, There are many other ways, You can just kind of integrate the different ESG factors in your entire investment process, right? And compare the companies, among each other and say, okay, this one is clearly, paying more attention to it, doing better. I feel like its prospects for the future are better than the other ones. So I maybe choose this one over the other one. Then we have the whole area of impact investing, as we call it, right? So that you really do invest with the purpose of bringing either environmental or social benefits, right? So this can be, like following the different sustainable development goals that were developed by the United Nations, right? So it's such a beautifully broad area, and I feel like that finally the investors are really once again past the point of kind of what to do, or I just stay away from something, and are exploring on how to do it the best way. And looking forward to that.
So in short, it's progress.
Absolutely.
Honzo.
I think when I look really zoom out, not only from Central Europe but also from the world, and see it like from outside, we have only one planet, not only environmentally but also societally. The planet is changing. Environmentally, climate change, we talk about a million times. Societally, the world's been changing, and it's faster and faster every year. From shareholder capitalism, we move to stakeholder one. People would like to have more information about the businesses. They have new tools how to communicate, whether they like the service or product or not. Social media and their immense power that, not only companies or media are using, but also investors and the rating agencies are more and more looking not only on hard data, but also what is being debated and talk about the companies, whether there is not some unhappy, pissed customer that is going viral, and we talk about whistleblowers as well. So everything is changing. It's not only the West, it's also Asia, Latin America, Africa. The whole world is moving in one direction. Different speeds. We talk about Central Europe, different the pillars that the push is going to environment, somewhere in Asia a little bit more of social. Now, because of COVID, social is becoming more predominant. G is coming up and down. So everything is changing, but the change is here, no doubt, and it won't be going anywhere. And this change is fascinating. It's opportunity. It's investment. It's also a challenge if you do it wrongly, but the change is here. So my recommendation for everyone, let's be part of it. This was ESG Masterclass by Forbes. My name is Jan from Home Credit Company. We have a Viktor here from McKinsey, Jakub from MSCI. It was great that we can talk to you about this fascinating topic called ESG. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.